if she don't have y'all to run to, then who is she going to run to? Like, who she going to, vent to about what's going on?
Welcome to the Only Male Cruise Show, the podcast. I am the Only Male Cruise. Copyright disclaimer regarding fair use is in full effect. The views and opinions expressed in this show are all mine. Let's go. Welcome. Thanks for pulling up to the Only Male Cruise Show, the podcast. I am the Only Male Cruise. Today's episode, who can I run to? We're talking about the DJOliviaDope and JoeBudden scandal with a twist of Bridget and Mandii of the See the Thing Is podcast and what feels like damage control. Content contributors, friends on the panel today are Antoinette, fan favorite Island Browning, and Naya Capri. Let's go to work. What's up, ladies? How y'all doing?
I'm well. How are you?
Doing good, doing good. So we know why we're here, and we know we're upset with we know we're upset with that Nickel and Dime podcast that they came up with that we all seem to have watched. And Antoinette, I think in the conversation that we had earlier today, a brief conversation, this is really this is an opportunity for people to learn a little bit more about this harassment and really how to conduct themselves. And I'm irritated with I don't even remember the girls' names, to be honest with you. I never even knew about their podcast until watching the Sean Davy Way show, and he had brought it up. But Mandii and Mindy, or whatever their name is, they aren't taking responsibility.
Bridget and Mandii.
Thank you. They're not taking responsibility for their for how they work this thing out. Y'all agree? What do y'all think?
It seems to me that they care more about Joe's relationship than Olivia's. Because Joe is in a position where he can give them more opportunities. They chose their relationship with Joe over the relationship with Olivia, and they didn't protect her or defend her from the gate. Like, they came in knowing that how Joe is. And now Olivia doesn't know, but Olivia knows them. So because they didn't have a relationship, Olivia wasn't aware of how Joe is. I guess she didn't look at the things that he's displayed on TV, because if anyone looked at Love and Hip Hop, you knew what type of person he was, and it should have been prepared, but he wasn't. And they totally, they violated girl code, which I think is non-existent anymore, but they did not protect her at all. And they should be dragged for it. They're getting dragged now in the internet streets, and they deserve every bit of it.
I know that's right.
But yes, I definitely agree with both of you. I felt like they was dead wrong for sticking up for him, and I believe that they been knew that this was going on. They just didn't want to say anything. But at the same time, I understand their position. But it was her. Like, I felt like Olivia should have said something way before it got out of control. It's not what's her name? Mandii and
Bridget.
Whoever else. Yes.
Bridget.
I felt like it wasn't their place to say what was going on. It was Olivia. You see what I'm saying? So I felt like it was being done to her, so she should have been the one that came to Joe and said, I'm so uncomfortable, could you not do that? Like, could you simmer that down? It's okay to say stuff, it's okay to say something politely without being over dramatic.
This is true.
Now, if she would have said that to him and he kept doing it, it would have been all ball game, and I would have cussing everybody out. And you know what I mean? Like, I just felt like it was her position to say, like, I'm feeling uncomfortable, not anybody else's. But I felt like they should have been there for her and not drag her on that show and not try to cover up what Joe was doing.
So check this out. I got a quick clip off of YouTube that shows just like 30 seconds or something of what occurred. Let's check it out real quick, y'all.
On-air hug from Olivia.
Yes. Y'all need to talk more. Come on, network vibes. Look at this family. Look at this family affair. love the choice of music on the way out, too. Seriously. He tells me every week, y'all all right, but live.
Look at this family affair.
So that was really a bootleg caption of what happened. Just, a snippet of it as well. And I hate that they had those end cards on there because it was, you couldn't see the part that is really in question, which, she said that he was grinding all on her and this and that. And she did have a smile on her face. You guys were able to see that video. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And so she did have a smile on her face. And I feel like, as women, we do, we carry the load, and it's not always a balanced load, because she could have just sat there and put a frown on her face and be like, and then it could have went sideways. Cause I don't think she knew in the beginning that it was going to wind up like this.
No, and I think that someone like Olivia is not confrontational. So, like, contrary to popular belief, all Black women aren't confrontational. All Black women aren't the type that needs to let you know not to play in my face. Not everybody is like that. There are some women that are non-confrontational, that go along to get along, that expect people to respect them because they want to respect other people. So when they're confronted with a situation and then being non-confrontational, they don't know how to react. And they might be someone that has people around them, or she assumed that if Joe did act like that, she assumed that her friends would protect them because they have a relationship with him and not her. Like in the beginning of what Olivia was talking about, she was saying that, when Joe mentioned that, you guys got a group chat and you guys don't have me in it. And me, Olivia, don't talk. And I wish we would talk more because I wanted to have sex with her from the moment I saw her. Now that was a temperature check.
Right.
And because she's not confrontational, she didn't peep the temperature check. He was checking her temperature to see if he could further cross a boundary, because that was a boundary he crossed. And since those two, Bridget and Mandii, knew him, they should have stepped in and said what she probably wanted to say. And because she didn't know how to articulate it without coming off too overly aggressive, she decided to smile. And that was her first mistake. And as women, we have to check behavior as soon as it happens. And for me, if someone wants to call me an angry Black woman, it is what it is.
Right.
If you take offense to me setting a boundary, then that's on you. And, in time, I learned how to say it in a nicer way. But in the beginning, I did not set boundaries in a nice way. And it just is what it is. But that was a very relaxed environment. She could have just checked him and it would have been what it is. But I bet you he would have stopped. It wouldn't have got to the point where he said, hit the button, B, and all that extra stuff.
Right. And, I've got some clips.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
Yeah. Oh, I've got some clips of her breakdown, and I figured that we could just kind of like take it apart piece by piece, to a certain extent, and just to kind of go in, because this is where I'm at with it. First of all, let me shout out Sean Davy Way Show. His name is not in the title of this show because, nobody up on this panel is trying to clout chase, but, shout out Sean Davy Way Show because, he brought this up and spent some time talking about it. And it just so happens that his point of view to me was spot on. If Olivia would have said something coming out the gate immediately, even if that meant leaving the job that day, we might not be here. And that's why it kind of made it a little funny to me, because it's like, are you going to endure this for a minute or two just so you can try to build a case? Or are you quite not sure? I mean, what's tea? So let's check out this little snippet quick. All right, let's check this clip out.
Within these past 3 months, I'm going to just be very frank. Within these past 3 months, after I left, I've been feeling stuck. Mentally, emotionally. I've even had to have a conversation with my daughter on why it's important for you to speak up when somebody crosses a boundary with you, because there is now footage of her mother on the internet with somebody crossing a boundary with her mother. And that's on there forever. And I want to lead by example and let her know that that is not how somebody should speak to you. And that also is a situation where if somebody does cross that line, you have to speak up.
And she's right. I agree with that. What y'all think?
Yeah. You have to set boundaries in the beginning, especially if you work in an environment where you have was mostly men. And in men-dominated environments, it's almost like a little frat house. Like they joke with each other, and then they would do it in small increments to see how they can play with you. And then if you set a boundary in the gate, they know you could play with your other friends, but please don't play with me like that. You have to set boundaries.
Definitely. I feel like, you know how like when you're going on a date and you don't know the other person, they'll try to do little things like touch your hand or touch your thigh to see where it can go. And
Yeah, like a
sometimes
temperature
when
check.
you feel uncomfortable, yeah, exactly. And if you feel like you're uncomfortable, just say, I'm not comfortable with that. Like, can we just, or you could just move out the way and let him know, like, I'm not interested. I felt like she could have did that, or even if she would have said something to her friends, even if she would have said something to her friends, I felt like she should have just went with her instincts the first time.
You said even if that was her friend, say what? Say that again, Naya.
I'm sorry. Even if she would have said something to her friend, she should have went with her instincts the first time and just nipped it in the bud. Because I'm pretty sure that she felt that inside first before anything. Because we know when we uncomfortable with a situation, especially females, like we tend to like clam up and don't want to like be touched. And I'm not victim shaming her like in any type of way because I understand I've been there, but at the same time, like I felt like she should have just spoke up soon as that happened, especially when he was grinding his hips on her. I would have been like, oh no, we can't do that. Even if it was in a joking way, she would have been, we ain't doing that.
Right.
To let her know, like,
I wouldn't even have hugged him. So to let him know that I'm bothered with this whole situation. Don't touch me. I don't want to hug you. We're not cool.
Who is you? Yeah. And on top of that, but then you look at Mandii and Monica, whatever their names are, because they help me, Lord. You know what I'm saying? They're over there cheering it on. Like, oh, Joe, we so happy to see that. What you so happy about? Why are you vicariously, getting off on what you see going on? Because Joe been doing that to you or what? I mean, that's what makes one wonder. Like, why are you so happy about it?
Because they've been accepting Joe's behavior for that long time.
Yeah, they were just too happy and too jovial that it was going on now, some of the episode that they had, because in it they are really just blaming Olivia. Let me see what I can do here real quick. Stand fast, y'all. Let me see. I really call this the gaslight edition because they made this whole thing about them.
Proud and so happy and blessed to have you by my fucking side. Love you, man. We plan to come onto this journey together. Yeah. You've been with me not only through this, but a lot of personal stuff this year. And I value that. And I'm so grateful to have you here. Love you. And I'm very excited because what you did in embracing me, is bring someone that you've embraced greatly, man, over the past, I'm not sure even how long she's been in your life, but you've deaded lunch dates with me to speak to this woman. Yeah. And so I want to give you the floor to introduce our wonderful guest.
Yeah. Hi guys. So my guest is my lifesaver. She is I call her my lifesaver because over the last year, as we talked about it last week, I mentioned that last year was the intro to therapy in a very different way as an adult, as a person experiencing the pandemic, and going through what kind of, I mean, it's not really midlife crisis, but it felt at the time, it kind of felt like I'm not in my midlife.
Girl, it was a world crisis.
But it was a world crisis, and I was kind of going through the motions emotionally. And I was like, you know what, I have some time. I have some time to do some digging and do some unpacking. And so my lovely lifesaver, the word therapist, everybody always goes, ooh. Anytime you say therapist, people get nervous. They're like, oh, shit, crazy.
So to me, they're just doing a whole bunch of, let's just get on to the point. And I don't like this therapist. I feel like she's just there to give them, to make them feel better, and not really be universal. And she's going to get to it. And y'all, again, I didn't have an opportunity to cut this all up where I could just click it and get to the specific parts. But I think we all said that we were able to catch a glimpse of this on our own personal time. But, for them to say, well, that they're too much power has been assigned to the term Black women. They are willing to dismantle the whole concept of Black women just so that they can feel better about their inaction. Let's get back to it real quick.
But my therapist, my life coach, my life preserver, my guiding light, Sarita is here. And so I had to give you. I was like, we didn't keep.
Oh yeah, sorry, I did. So
air horns.
There's not going to be air horns or claps or gunshots, but during this episode,
there we go. Those are snaps for you because. May being Mental Health Awareness Month prior to all of the chaos and implosion.
For men to grow up, men aren't really allowed to cry, and we're pushed to cry and wear our emotions on our sleeves. And unfortunately, as a woman, and one of the words that shout out to Latasha, she hates when I say it. We've also been in a place to be strong Black women, and so unfortunately, I've moved in that way in this space to where I laugh things off, I troll, I kiki, ha ha. I come on this pod and we're like, the world is burning and here we are. And we do laugh at it. But Bridget and I, over the course of, I would say several months now, I mean, it's this year has been super hard for me. And I've been having to come on here weekly and speak my truth, tell my opinions, share the things. When in fact, I don't want to laugh about it. Maybe I just want to cry and ball up, or, there's not been people that have checked up on my mental health. They feel like, cause the show is going on, I'm fine.
Yeah.
And, so I guess I want to speak to that. Men, we know, are working through being able to open up and be themselves. But now in this era of women being coined strong Black women and strong first, and not letting their emotions get in the way of business, and not letting their emotions lead them to being crazy, or all of these things that are oftentimes in question with women as to maybe us making decisions that are emotion-based. How do we move forward as far as still being able to be in tune with our emotions and be strong Black women and entrepreneurs and business owners and mothers and friends and partners all at the same time? Because now it's a lot now. We're doing more than just keeping up with the house.
But I also think that the term strong has been used as a weapon. It has been weaponized in the last, 30, 40 years. And what I would love for us to do is redefine what strong is, because there's so many words, so many things, so many phrases that just kind of get thrown around without actually taking the time to be a wordsmith.
Okay, so yeah, sure. So that is that's problematic for me. Because now she's trying to dismantle what a strong Black woman is. And I don't know. What do y'all think about that? What do y'all think about what this therapist just said? Is anybody in the house?
I felt like some stuff she was dead on, but then some stuff it was like, okay, like, are you just trying to dismantle Olivia's feelings because of how the way she felt in that situation, or what? Because to me, I feel like I'd rather be strong than weak. I'd rather somebody say, you know what, you're strong because you went through this and you went through that and it didn't break you. But at the same time, black women are like, we're struggling. Like, we're tired of being strong for other people because they feel like we carry a lot. You know what I mean? And it's just to the point to where, like, is anybody going to check on me to make sure I'm okay?
Mm-hmm.
But knowing that we're checking on everybody else, make sure they all right.
True. I can see that point of view. I can see that.
Yeah, and to add to you, Naya, when a woman speaks for themselves, they want to coin a black woman as being angry just to disregard her feelings. And when she was saying that black women are forced to be strong, that's for men and black women. We all are forced to be strong. We are all forced to still keep it moving despite of all the trauma that we experienced during our lifetime. And it's a way to disregard it. And I have mixed feelings when it comes to the term strong black woman, mainly because it's a way to gender divide, to say that a woman is so strong that she doesn't need a man. And like we're so strong because we can't depend on our black men, and that's not the case. No,
Mm-hmm.
every woman needs a man, whether
I
we want to admit it or not. We're
agree.
not so strong where we can work, take care of kids. No, it's a lot easier and it's less traumatic on the mind, body, and spirit when a man is there to help do all those things with us. And we're not that strong we could do it all by ourselves. And
That's
and
true.
that's the
Mm-hmm.
underlining uh issue, or the underlying narrative that they try to coin behind a strong black woman. It's a way to gender divide. And I don't like the fact that they brought that up, because they was trying to use that as a way to discredit and disregard her feelings. And Olivia,
Right.
like, they were wrong, both Mandii and Bridget.
I agree. And Island, I see you sounding off in the chat, girl. What you talking about, girl?
Yeah, I too, I'm very like iffy when I hear the term strong black woman, because it's like, as Antoinette was saying, it it it, it almost makes us seem more masculine, like if we don't need men. And it causes, it's kind of divisive in some ways.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I agree, we do need men. A lot
Absolutely.
of, we have women that have sons, and they can't teach their son how to be a man,
That's true.
so I don't know. I just personally, you know, I don't care for those two ladies for my own personal reasons, that I'm trying to
Right.
keep it PC,
Yeah.
because I don't know.
Yeah, I don't care for them or Joe. I've had issues with Joe. And when he started that podcast, I
Yeah, I
was
definitely
trying to
agree.
support because it's a black owned situation or whatever. But
Mhm.
as the popularity grew, like, I watched them when they first started and nobody was barely
Same.
watching. And as they popularity grew, I watched him turn right into that same toxic man that was on Love
Yeah.
and Hip Hop fighting
Yeah.
Consequence. I seen that same
Yeah.
man that was charged with all these domestic abuses with Caitlyn
Mhm.
and Tahiri. I
Mm.
seen that
Yep. I
same man, and
stopped
then as soon as I
watching
seen
around
that and him
December.
disrespecting his best
Yep.
friends that he's known for over
Yeah.
15, 20 years, these same two men that stuck with you through your drug addictions, all the
Yep.
things you went through financially, for you to sit here and try to act like now you big and bad. I have issues with him and these girls,
Mm-hmm.
especially
Yeah.
Mandii and Bridget, because they've known him longer too. And they
Right.
Yeah.
know how toxic he is.
Yeah.
And they should have stepped up
Mhm.
for her because she didn't know Joe like that.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
Mhm.
one of the things that Mandy and Bridget kept saying, Bridget primarily, was like, because according to Bridget, and I'm just going to say allegedly because I don't know all the facts. And again, copyright, fair use disclaimer is in full effect, and the views and opinions belong to the people that are on this panel. So, I told everybody to turn their ringer down, and here my phone is up loud. Lord have mercy. Either way, The show's still going on. But the issue that the issue that I had with them is she kept saying, I tried to bring her into, or what? How are women supposed to bring other women into a space of safety and caring? And my thing was like, wait, hold on. I'm a grown woman. You're a grown woman. You don't need to come and pamper me and paddle me and waddle me and all this and that. I'm here to do a job. I've got the education. I've got the experience. I'm here to do this job. I don't need you to pat me and all this and that, because you were at this place of employment before I was. That's not what I need you to do, though, is when you see some inappropriate behavior, is to speak up, especially if I look like I'm uncomfortable and having a hard time expressing it, because I think that's part of the problem that as women that we haven't gotten to that point where we can cut Joe off in the middle of that hug that we showed, and say, hey, no, bro, step back. It ain't, But if Olivia maybe had a husband or her husband was there, maybe Joe wouldn't have, even said anything, or maybe
Absolutely.
Olivia,
he wouldn't have.
But men are bold. Men are very bold. And they would try you, even if you do have a spouse or a husband or a boyfriend. They would still try you.
True.
Yeah, that's true.
That's true.
I just feel like they even like when she was saying how they had the chat that they would do their own little personal chat. Mandii was taking stuff from the chat and running back to Joe and telling him stuff. And that right there I had a problem with that when that was said, because yes. My thing is that chat is for us.
Oh my God.
That's not something you run back and go talk to Joe about. I'm sure Joe has his own chats. He don't be coming running to you, because in his mind anyway, he feel like it's my network. I do what I want to do. Why would you take a place where y'all supposed to feel safe with each other when y'all have maybe where y'all want to talk about frustrations or things you don't like, and take that information and run back to Joe and tell him?
And then pull up on your podcast and say, I tried to create a safe space and now I'm crying because, I just don't know. I tried and what did Mandii said, somebody was in the comments, called her a refrigerator. He said, you refrigerator. I said, oh,
exactly.
They and if they want to create a safe space, why didn't she do that right then and there during that first podcast? If she wanted to create a safe space. So that was all BS and trying to, course correct what had happened and really caping for Joe. That had nothing to do with Olivia.
Absolutely. So let's check out this other little snippet of Olivia and her overview or her discussion of what happened. Let's this is where she's describing that it was traumatizing, etc. Let's check it out.
And I'm now in a place where it was traumatizing, embarrassing, and I've decided that I have to actually speak up, because not only was it important for me to walk away from it, it also is important for me to speak up, not only to help heal myself, but also to probably help others in the future and let them know that this probably wouldn't be the best situation for you to enter into working with this person.
And I'm going to give her props, because I feel like the problem that we have that we haven't, that hasn't, when we talk about the girl code, because this is a situation that falls under the girl code, in my opinion. And I feel like I'm just going to give Mandii and Bridget not a pass, but I'm going to give them some tolerance, because this area of, well, how do you say, and what do you say, and what do you do, is not clear. And people don't necessarily want to label it, or organize it so that they can get away with their bad behavior. Because I feel like now Mandii and Bridget Now they want the sympathy. They want us to come in and pat them and make a safe space for them when they certainly didn't do it. But I'm just going to let them, allow them some tolerance because they maybe didn't know how to, but I don't believe that, but we're just going to give them a pass because what Olivia,
you a better person than me because I ain't giving them no passes because
oh my God,
they sat there in that they sat in that daggone show and made it about them.
Yes, they did. They did. But that's why I said, I'm just going to give it because, I feel you, but they don't get over. They're wrong. They're wrong.
Yeah.
It's obvious what they were doing. They trying to sell us some corn and call it yellow diamonds, and I ain't buying it. But what I'm saying is that because we haven't on a larger level, we have not had this definition of the girl code. That's still up in the air. That's still subject to one's own interpretation. We haven't defined what a safe space is, to use their terminology. What a safe space is. The bottom line is what Olivia is doing is clear definition. If somebody sexually harasses you or anything other, violates you in any fashion or manner, you do have to speak up. So she did quit. Took her 3 weeks, but she did quit. She is speaking up now. And I think what I took issue with when Sean Midway's show presented this on his platform, what I took issue with was the fact that Olivia, why didn't you leave immediately? And that's kind of like what else Sean was saying was that you should have left that day. What'd you stick around for?
Yeah. I think she may have been in a place where, this is my job and this is my, granted, yes, I agree. She should have left from jump. Mm-hmm. But I do think sometimes, even when I've been in situations myself, that, okay, I can just, let me just be quiet and just let this pass and it'll pass. And I think it just got to her and then she left.
Mm-hmm.
I also think hearing about Maul and everything and seeing the mistreatment that they've been through kind of put some wind in her sails to say something.
Sure.
Yeah, because she felt like, okay, now it's not only me. I'm not going crazy. It wasn't just me.
Right.
This is how this man is. So since everybody's talking about Rory and Mal, let me tell y'all what happened to me too. Because Joe is an issue. And I feel her like I've been in a situation where I was in an uncomfortable environment, and I really couldn't leave because I had bills to pay and I was paying my own way through college. So I tried my best to stick it out, but I was in a more professional setting. So what I did is grab my employee handbook and read and had a one-on-one conversation with the person who was doing this. So when that person understood at that point that I was serious, and because I was bringing in company policies, that was made him, he immediately thought about a lawsuit, and that was immediately what I was alluding to. So,
right.
So, for her, she probably did just want to stick that, hoping it was going to get better, but it ended up probably getting worse behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Well, and she does go on, Olivia does go on to say that, Joe started pitting them against each other and saying that, you don't wear your clothes like a single woman or something like that. And, she goes further into it. But my thing is this. So like, for Mandii and them, here's where the tolerance is. So for Mandii and Mindy and whatever, the point is when Joe went over there to hug Olivia, okay, and I'm going to identify with Olivia and say, well, oh man, this is an awkward position, and what do? I don't want to come off as an angry black woman, but I really don't want to hug this nigga. I don't know this nigga. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And Mandii and them over there cheering and backflipping and doing the splits and all this and that. Why, to me, if you want to start outlining the girl code, to me, they should have been like, Joe, now, have you asked her, does she think this is sexual harassment? They should have spoken up in general terms, at least open the door for either him to stop or Olivia to feel like, Thanks for saying something, because I didn't know what to say. But yeah, Joe, damn, what kind of sexual harassment day is this? National Sexual Harassment Day? But instead they encouraged him, but not her. But then they get on this podcast talking about it's supposed to be. I was trying to make it a safe and a nice little cocoon and make it warm and this, that, and 2/3.
Right.
No, she did not. And even before that hug, when he
Yeah,
said
that
press the
comment
button
pissed
B.
me off.
Now that would have had me get my stuff and walk out. It wouldn't even got to no hug, because who are you talking to? And all she
Yeah,
could have did is just really ask that
yeah.
question. Like who?
Right.
Who are you talking to? I'm not
Who?
your little friends over here that you've been knowing for 15, 20 years. You don't know me to be laughing and talking to me like that. And if he
Yeah.
wants to say I'm an angry black woman, oh well.
Correct.
Especially talking about that you don't wear your clothes like a single woman. How is single women and married women or women that have a boyfriend wear their clothes?
Right.
Right.
Like, that's what I want to know. I ain't know always the details that everybody, every woman has to wear their clothes a certain way.
Right. And
Yeah.
again, if these women wanted Olivia to feel like they had her back, or that they were, this is a safe space, Olivia. It's warm and we've got, warm milk and cookies for your ass. If that's what they wanted her to do, they should have stepped up and said, um, and according to Olivia, all of this was done in front of everybody, the production team, anybody that was within earshot. Saw all of this go on. And that's the other thing that's crazy, because I don't know if there's any women that were working behind the camera. How did that make them feel? But nobody spoke up.
All
Nobody
right.
did anything. Well, let's check out this one
I
spot
feel
here
so
where,
bad for her.
say what, Naya?
I said I feel so bad for Olivia.
Yeah, because she didn't handle it appropriately, and she kind of, because of her being silent, it caused somebody like Joe, and that wasn't her fault. Like, it wasn't her fault that she was around someone that she gave him an inch and he took a yard. It's not her fault, but it is a learning experience for her and other women that may encounter a man and women. It's men and women that act just like Joe, that are manipulative, and they laugh and
Slimy.
kiki to temperature check you. And if they feel like you're not going to say nothing for something small, they keep on. They keep on. They keep on. Then when you end up snapping on them, they're like, "Hey, what's wrong with you? I'm joking." They like to say that they're joking just so they can then turn around and use it as an excuse, and to turn that around on you and say, "Oh, you can't take a joke."
Right. Okay, so let's check out this quick clip. I think this is where I guess they asked her, I don't know, something. Olivia said she told the people no, and the others did something else. And the ladies, again, Mindy and Mandy and Brindy and Brandy, or whatever their names are. Let's peep this game real quick.
I'm gonna go ahead and start from 13 minutes and 48 seconds. Joe calls me out by saying, "I've never reached out to him privately or personally." This information is important to this entire scenario because it proves my lack of familiarity with this person. And that is what makes everything that transpired after that so uncomfortable. Even though I tried my best to laugh through it, to not, like I said, dampen the mood of the room while we were recording. At 14 minutes 34 seconds, there's an edit in the recording because Joe says him and I should speak more because, quote, "he's been wanting to fuck me since we've met." Everyone in the studio, including production staff, laughed uncomfortably while one of my co-hosts confirmed that to be true. I am mortified by this revelation, not only because it's revealed while we are amongst the presence of all of the production staff, but it's also being done while we are also recording audio as well as visual. That scene was cut out, And it jumps to Joe repeating, "We should speak more because we have the least dialogue." At 19 minutes and 26 seconds, another edit happens because Joe makes another suggestion to having sex with me. This is shown, Joseph makes another suggestion to have sex with me. That scene is edited out, and what is shown in right after that is me closing my eyes, saying no, and then he says, "Never mind." At 21 minutes, 30 seconds, Joe tells me to hit a button, bitch, because I didn't hit a sound effect fast enough. At 24 minutes and 54 seconds, Joe makes a comment that I am throwing my singleness in his face, and he thought we were going to be a network power couple. Once again, I'm trying to laugh all of this off. As it's transpiring, I reply by saying, "Sorry, Joe, we're not." At 25 minutes and 42 seconds, I make a comment about relationships in general within the conversation. Joe retorts that my shirt that I was wearing isn't buttoned like I'm single. Excuse me, I have to repeat that. My shirt that I'm wearing isn't buttoned like I'm single. I pause, cover my chest with my hand, and try to brush it off once again and continue the conversation. At 31 minutes, 42 seconds to about 35 minutes and change, Joe makes me feel like I'm in a hostile work environment by letting my co-host know that I am carrying the group because they don't dress sexy enough. Because now, not only am I embarrassed for myself in being objectified, but also you're making other women that I have to work with on a regular basis uncomfortable by telling them they don't dress sexy enough. Like I said, this transpired while recording, in front of cameras, and in front of the entire production staff.
And that's crazy. That's crazy. And that's why Mandy and Mindy and Brindy and Brandy, they don't get, that's all they're going to, I'm just going to give them tolerance and just put them under the ignorance box. Because if all that went on and it didn't dawn on any of them to say, "Hey, Joe, you might want to tone it down a little bit," or something of that nature. And it didn't dawn on them to do any of that. Even if they cared about Joe, just to think, you know what, this could lead to some sexual harassment, just where it is right now. But they didn't even step up and say anything then. But now they're on their podcast talking about how they, they're offended and hurt and being done wrong.
Yeah.
What do y'all think about Joe's behavior?
Well, let me get this right. Okay, so Mandy and Bridget been knowing Joe for a long time. Like, I know, is it Mandy that I've seen on Love and Hip Hop? I think she made appearances on Love and Hip Hop with Joe. So it's Bridget. Okay.
Bridget was on the LA one.
Right, the LA one too. So they've been knowing Joe for a long time, and they've been knowing Olivia for a long time. So they create a podcast and they bring Olivia on, their longtime friend. And Joe and Olivia don't know each other, right? So, like for me, I have a friend that's toxic, and I've been knowing him since grammar school. And it's been times where I know we're going to go to a party or we're going to go to a club, and I know that I'm going to bring my friends because he got friends, bring your homegirls, that type of situation. Because I know how he is, I'm going to give my friend a heads up and was like, you know what, girl, he may say some things. You're going to have to check him. And he crosses boundaries and he talks real reckless when he wants to, but he means nothing by it. He's just that type of a man like Joe. And that has nothing to say about him as a friend, but it's as he talks to women that he doesn't know, right? So it was my responsibility as a friend to first give my friends a heads up. And if my friend did pull it, if he did say something and my girlfriend didn't say anything back, it is my responsibility because I have a relationship with him. Hey, man, cool out, please. Or sit him to the side and was like, what you said wasn't right. Don't do that. If you're around her again, don't talk to her like that. That was so disrespectful. So why couldn't it be that situation then that they know Joe and they know Olivia and they knew what he said was wrong, but they was laughing it off and disregarding her feelings, assuming that she was okay with it because she was sitting around laughing. And the reason why she was laughing is because maybe she didn't encounter a situation like this before, but when Joe first said that, I thought we'd be a power couple, and we're not in a group chat, and because she left that part out immediately after he said that we don't know each other, the part that's in that show, he talks about triggers. He was like, so it's important for me to know your triggers, and she was like, I don't think anybody should know. And that's where she messed up, because he heard that and was like, oh, I'm about to act up at my regular Joe self. Because she doesn't need to tell me her triggers. So anything that I say and do after this point is then her fault, because she didn't tell me her boundaries and she didn't tell me her triggers.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that is a loaded question. It's just even like if you go on a job interview and they say, tell me your weaknesses, like for what?
Right.
I mean,
are you trying to set me up?
Exactly. If we got to go all into that, let me go to my next interview. You know what I'm saying? So why are you asking me for?
Well, he was saying that because he was bogus when he said that I wanted to have sex with you since I met you. So he was trying to see if she was okay with that statement. And what she should have said was like, well, one of my triggers is a man telling me that he wanted to have sex with me as soon as he met me.
Get on,
now, that's
girl.
a trigger for me. Since we want to talk about triggers, now that's one of them.
Yeah.
I don't have sex with coworkers. And then that probably would have stopped him from saying all this other crap. Because once he said B hit the button, that show would have been over with.
He would have been embarrassed.
Yeah, that could have me too.
Yeah, totally disrespectful. But see, this is the thing. It to even tie with the whole Rory and Maul. Once Joe got this money, he was already an asshole, but it just magnified it even more. He felt my money can take me into places and let me do what I want to do now.
Yep.
Okay. You're not Jay-Z.
Come on.
You're not Master P.
Holla.
You not Dr. You ain't none of them. Those men built their business, but they built it in a way where they weren't doing the BS that you was doing. And that is why you are in the crap you're in today now. So I don't feel sorry for Joe. I really don't.
Yeah. But I feel like too, like him making that statement about the way you dress, this, that, and 2/3, where you were really trying to pit those girls against Olivia. And I'm going to say
Absolutely.
I'm going to say this. I feel like, and I think you guys alluded to it as well, that Mandii and Bridget really were kind of trying to lead. It appears as though they were trying to lead Olivia, like they were trying to lead her into the slaughterhouse. Y'all know how Joe is. We're going to bring you in here and let him do unto you as we either wish he would do unto us, or he's already done unto us. Because for them to let all of this go on, and now you can't hardly get them to shut up on that one little podcast episode with a biased, what appears to be a biased therapist. Because instead of her really being 100 and saying, well, look, Mindy and Mandii, what you guys should have done was, this, that, and that, and that. Instead, she's like, well, no, it's, black women, strong black woman, that's really just an imaginary term. And that's not what she said. I'm just paraphrasing my interpretation of her whole essence of being even on that episode. She was there to uphold them and psychologically break Olivia's position down.
Right. The therapist was bogus anyway. I'm like, as a therapist, I would be embarrassed.
I was about to say that too, because she was pissing me off too.
Yes.
Yeah. You ain't getting no clientele
She was
the way you carried yourself. I just don't see it.
Because
she was finding medical terms to excuse this whole situation, and she didn't do a good job at doing it.
Yeah.
No, she didn't.
And
Maybe
that makes
she's on his payroll.
Maybe what, Naya?
I said maybe she's on his payroll. Who knows?
Who knows? Who knows?
You could be. I could believe that, Naya. I really could.
And it sounds like too, like they're trying to, they're doing this so that they can, because this thing is going to go to court. And like they're trying to do this so that they can, no, Your Honor, pull in the show, this episode, so we can show you that we didn't know anything about it until we woke up one morning. And I resent the fact that they're offended that they said, we're getting dragged in the comments. I woke up this morning and people aren't respecting the fact that, this had nothing to do with us. It really had a lot to do with you. And it had a lot to do with you. And it has a lot. And if we just take them off the table and just, woman A, woman B, C, and D, the fact of the matter is I feel like if we put this under the girl code folder, put it in the girl code folder, if it should be that if women are witnessing sexual harassment and by someone that you have a closer relationship with than the other person, like for me, I would have been like, Joe, do you know Olivia? Are you sure that Olivia don't mind you doing that?
Right. You doing too much.
Yeah.
Or you could jokingly say, get up off her, dude. Like, nigga, get up off her. Excuse my language, but you know what I'm saying? You could say something that doesn't come off, it's direct, but the intention is direct, but it's not coming off as argumentative.
Exactly.
Since y'all are recording the show.
Well, and since you're so cool with Joe, you've been knowing Joe, let you tell it a million years. How come you couldn't just say, nigga, if you don't step up off this girl, are you so unprofessional?
Right.
I mean, why are you letting it go on? And then you want to get on with this therapist and act like we had no idea and we just wanted it to be safe and hand me a Kleenex because I feel like I failed. You did fail and you ain't getting no Kleenex. Quit playing.
Yeah, and because they found a way so they can work around a narcissist, that doesn't mean everybody knows how to do that. They laugh it off and don't take it personal. But what if you're around someone that will take it personal? You can't expect for everyone to feel the same way you feel.
Thank you. And ain't nobody got time. Everybody doesn't have time to dally and dilly-dally around with JoeBudden with his Lord have mercy. Let's look at this clip where Olivia is she's going to discuss, I think, the shirt buttoning and the ideas and the group chat stuff like that, where they were sharing the group chat and shutting her ideas down. But yet you pull up on this therapy podcast talking about, well, check this out, y'all.
Looking away and looking down in discomfort several times because he has also said this in the past. And it actually created a passive aggressive and competitive environment with myself and my former co-host, where she admittedly attempted to shut down every idea I brought to the table because it wasn't well received by Joe and Ian, his business partner. That same former castmate often relayed group chat conversations back to Joe, which I personally felt was done because she wanted to secure her spot as his favorite because he's made it clear to the entire group that he favorites me. Fast forward, we usually take a pause for about 10 to 15 minutes during recording to kind of regroup and get to the next segment. During that break, I leave the studio to go inside of the green room where Joe is sitting there alone. He asked me if I was okay, and I just immediately said yes, to not even try to further any sort of conversation or uncomfortableness. He then tells me he's gonna come back and sit with us and just give an on-air hug to lighten the mood. I say, okay. Fast forward, to 2 hours, 16 minutes, and 3 seconds into the show. Joe returns and he goes down the line to give everyone their accolades. He starts with Mandii. He goes to Bridget. And then once he gets to me, the scene is edited again because he says, Olivia is unique because I want to fuck Olivia and the fans love her. That scene is edited out. Those words are edited out. But what's left there is me widening my eyes in shock and embarrassment because after he asked if I was okay and he said he would come back to lighten the mood, I didn't think he would once again reference to wanting to have sex with me.
All right. Can you imagine him using that kind of language with her like that? And can you
He's
imagine?
slimy, so I can.
Very much so. I mean, how could after that? It's like I said, if you thought Joe was hot and he said it like that, and that's what you like, okay. But if you don't think Joe is hot, you don't want him talking to you like that. You're offended by what he says. Shouldn't at this point I'm putting it on Olivia. Olivia, you got to stop suffering through that. By now, you need to be saying something. Period. I mean, where is the line?
Yeah,
Definitely.
Where's the line?
I know even where I work for the military, and I'll never forget there was a guy who used to come in the building clean, and he would always flirt with the women. And next thing I know, he was gone one day. And I was like, well, what happened? Well, come to find out, he was he was flirting with one of my coworkers, and a supervisor witnessed it. And she reported him for sexual harassment, and he lost his job. So it's like sexual harassment not only affects the victim, it affects other people in that environment as well.
Yeah.
So I do think that you should, if you see something that's it's inappropriate, or hear something that's inappropriate, then yeah, you should be able to say, I don't really think that was right, because you never know, it could be you the next time.
Thank you.
Receiving that type of energy from that person.
Right.
So
right.
Yeah.
So
I think you see it reported.
Yeah.
Period.
This question: do you think that would it have been appropriate with the example that you gave, Alan? Would it have been appropriate for that person to have gone to the quote unquote victim and say, "Hey, is that your husband, or was that okay with you? I mean, are you okay?" I mean, should we do that? Should we file that under the girl code? At least ask if you think you see sexual harassment going on. Should we at least ask?
Yes.
Yes.
I work in an environment.
You don't know how that person is feeling. Yeah, you don't know how that person is feeling. You don't know what type of day they had. You don't even know if they battling depression, mental health, anything. And that's what pushed them over to the edge. You see what I'm saying? So, listen, my friends know. If I had a friend like Olivia, and I know for a fact that she's not confrontational, I would never put my friend in that situation. Never. That's from the jump, and I don't understand why would they even put her in that situation, knowing that how allegedly Joe was or is. I felt like they did not protect her at all.
Yeah,
at all.
And protecting her is just an afterthought on a podcast episode. You found, oh, that's a good idea. Let's call it that we are trying to really care and save space and safe place and all this crap. I wasn't buying that. And like I said, we shouldn't, that's not our job. All four of us on this panel right now can hold our own. That's what I believe. And but if at any time one of the four of us, had a situation, that's when hey, girl, are you okay? Is there anything I can do to help you? This, that, and 2/3. That's where it's not as soon as the doors open, this is a safe space. This is not a daycare. It's not adult daycare. It's not, child daycare. I'm grown. I'm an independent adult. I'm trying to handle my business. And, so you don't owe me that pampering. But what you do owe me is when I walk into a loaded room and you know everybody who's, got some iron on them, you heard? And you know at least hit me to the square. You know what I'm saying?
I'll be honest with you. I was surprised that when he finally changed the podcast to the JoeBudden Network or whatever, and then that show, because he has that show with those ladies, and then there's another show with Karen Civil. I was very surprised by that because the history of him, I would have never worked with him, but I think that in their minds they felt like, oh, he knows how to act at work. And my thing is, no, if he's inappropriate in other places, he's gonna be inappropriate at work too. It's just I don't know.
They're just making justifications for Joe right now. They're really just trying to save their own behind. So it's two more clips I want us to just briefly discuss. And I think this next one coming up is where after that editing, they they asked her, does she want to remove the edits? And because the ladies on the podcast talked about that too. We told her, come on in here, let's take this out. And then Mandii tried to make it sound like she was doing her a favor and being generous by saying, you know what, let's just take that part out. Let's just take that part out. Let's see. I hope this is the right clip, y'all, where Olivia's talking about after it was all said and done, they asked her, what parts of the stuff did they want out? Hold on, here we go.
At 2 hours, 17 minutes, and 38 seconds, after I sit down after the on-air hug, I grab the microphone and I say, this is uncomfortable. That's pretty much the end of the episode that was recorded. After the recording, Joe was asked while he was still in the room with everyone, if he wanted to delete the parts where he made passes at me. He said he didn't care. As long as I'm fine with it, then the entire room pretty much looks at me and said, I just say I'm fine with it too. Feeling pressured, I say I'm fine. A few minutes later, I was called back into the studio to see if I wanted to hear the unedited version again and decide if I really want to keep it in there. I listened to it again, and in my ears, it sounded like everyone was laughing. So who am I to say this needs to be taken out? I don't have much say in this situation. I've already been belittled in this situation by being sexually harassed and objectified. Because just to break from me having these bullet points, at the end of the day, that's what sexual harassment in the workplace especially is. Belittling someone, taking away their dignity in those moments of seeing them less than. So as much we can say these are jokes, I'm an employee. I didn't have a previous rapport with this person before coming onto this podcast. I didn't have any romantic relations with him, nor did I want to at any given point in time in my life. And many would probably ask, well, if you know the history of JoeBudden, well, why would you sign on to do something like that? Let me tell you right now, if you're going to work and your intention is just to go in and do your job, it should be just that, no matter who's there. If you have no dealings with this person, they even admit to having no outside conversations with you up until that point. At no time should anybody feel comfortable enough to say anything of that nature to you. I don't wish anything that happened to me in that moment on anyone, because like I said, it was extremely embarrassing. I am mortified that when people search JoeOliviaDope, the brand that I've spent 10 years at least building, that comes up. I am mortified that after I quit, I had to have a heart-to-heart conversation with the child I gave birth to. I'm sorry, it's not this fast. It's New York. I am mortified that I had to have a conversation with the child that I gave birth to, because she can find it on the internet, her friends can find it her teachers can find it on the internet, and say, look, that's your mother being belittled and sexually harassed and called a bitch. And I had to explain to her that is not how someone speaks to you. And told her, if someone does do that, you have to speak up. But I didn't myself speak up until this point. So I was being a hypocrite. How can I tell my child, when someone sexually harasses you, you have to tell someone you have to speak up, and I'm not doing the same thing? So that is literally why I'm here today, to speak up for myself, start my healing process, like I said, and continue on with using my voice. There was attempts to intimidate, attempts to silence me. I can't be silenced. I absolutely cannot. After listening to the recording again, Joe wasn't there. I listened to the recording with some of the production staff members. Once again, everyone, chuckles. So I'm like, well, I mean, if everybody's chuckling, just keep that in there. It wasn't until one of my castmates, Mandii, informs me that although the audio sounds funny, I looked uncomfortable. She looked over me and she saw that I was uncomfortable. So she suggested that we shouldn't keep those moments in the episode. And I agreed, because I was uncomfortable. So they were edited out. It was really, really hard to even get up to this point. Sorry if I had to speak slow. Sorry if I had to stutter, and I just really had to take the time to really formulate what I was gonna say and how I was gonna say it, because there's so many thoughts that go through my head about this whole scenario, about the situation, that it's been hard to even get it out in front of this camera right now. At this point in time, I just recommend any woman that thinks about working with this person in any capacity, please think again. I should have walked into this situation doing a bit more research on how work environments are with him. I should have taken heed to the accusations that have been in the past, even though they are more so in his personal life. Those should have been red flags for me as well. But at the end of the day, regardless of all of that, no one should ever feel comfortable enough to speak the way that person spoke to me. Ever. No one should ever feel comfortable enough to make a workplace environment completely hostile and toxic the way that person did. No one should ever feel like they can be sexually explicit and suggestive, not only to you while you're coming in just trying to work, but also in front of the entire production staff to belittle you. it should never happen. After I left, once I decided to quit, I informed my lawyer. My lawyer got on a phone call with his lawyer and informed his lawyer that these are the reasons why my client is leaving this network. She will not be returning. Once my lawyer informed his lawyer, I then informed my castmates via text, explaining to them that I am not billed for the JoeBudden network. My apologies to them, but I've prayed on it, I've meditated on it, but this is just not the right fit for me. No one responded in that moment, and I was removed from the group chat. But I did speak to both of them a week after.
Yeah, so I actually had that what Joe said on the show. But if you see, and then when Mandii and Bridget did their little, with the therapist, did their little podcast episode with the therapist, they tried to say that like they were offended because we had a photo shoot that day and all we got was a text. Can you believe that? A text telling us she wasn't coming back. They are totally narcissistic. It's all about them and how they were impacted and how they were disenfranchised. But there's no empathy with what this Olivia girl had to deal with.
Exactly.
No. And if there was a need to edit, and if there was a need to pull her to the side and ask her if she was uncomfortable, then it's obvious that he was wrong. And if it was obvious that he was wrong, and if there was a need to edit because she looked uncomfortable, why didn't Joe issue an apology? Why didn't they all have a little meeting? Like your friends, Mandii and Bridget and Joe should have been in a separate room, and then he could have said, I apologize for what I've done. But he's a narcissist, and narcissists are never going to apologize. They're going to find a reason to make everybody else the blame except for themselves. And they know that.
Even this is the thing that kind of blew me away is when she first felt uncomfortable, they talked about it during a break. His black ass came back and was even more disrespectful to her.
Thank you.
So where is it not registering, Joe? Like, why are you not taking this in and saying, okay, I've obviously done something wrong. Let me clean it up.
Right.
And now that we're back on the show, I'm just going to strictly talk about whatever topics we. No, you still went there.
Mm-hmm. And Mandii and Bridget.
He has a severe disorder.
And the lady still didn't intervene. And so
at all.
The whole show keep going on, and the only time now that you want to do some retrospective thinking is when you're on a whole new episode of your own podcast trying to cover your ass, because it's clear now that you witnessed it. You really abetted it. You helped it along, because they could have said something.
Yeah, that pissed me off.
And if they really cared, they could have said something in another show. They didn't say anything until they were forced to. Because if Olivia never came out and said anything, they wouldn't have came out and said anything. Because they really didn't care. All they cared about is the success of their show.
Yeah. I agree with that.
And then you say, who knew Olivia? Was it, you said Bridget?
I think that's right. I think Bridget, because I think Bridget's the one that encouraged Olivia to come to the show. Because I think on that episode, Mandii is saying, I don't know her. Who knows? That's probably.
I don't think they did know each other, but I know Bridget definitely, because Bridget has been in the music industry for a long time. So she knows all too well about unwanted advances and the disrespect, because she has talked about it herself. So for her to sit there and have experienced all of that and not have your coworkers back,
right?
Yeah, that's why I said that they did not protect her. Especially
At all.
Bridget. If you know that if I put my friend on and I knew no longer I'm gonna stop with her. Even if
Right.
it's meant for me to lose my job, I'm gonna stop with my friend.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. So check this out, y'all. I'm about to play the and Olivia was kind of long-winded with her retelling of what happened, but I guess when they get to the courthouse, she'll have all the time she needs to get all that done. Wrong from JoJo. But she is about to tell us what Joe said when he on his own podcast, which again is furtherance of his disdain and disrespectful attitude towards women. So we're going to check that out.
You should, not to cut you, but you should watch the one where, was it Rosa Acosta came on there? And this was maybe like a month or two ago.
Mm-hmm.
She's already like a little kind of, extra, little nasty, whatever. Little loose, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But the way Joe was I was like, wow.
Really?
I'm not surprised.
Well, no, not after the way Olivia's describing how he behaved, and I do think it is funny that they know they're in hot water because usually they're not going to take nothing off the internet. They're going to be like, "Yeah, it is what it is." But you don't try to scrub the whole internet, allegedly.
Mm-hmm.
Even the part you edited the show, but now what you've done, you just took the whole thing down.
Mm-hmm. But it's too late. So many people have recorded it and copied it and everything. So
yeah, so they ain't gonna get. So anyway, so I'm gonna go ahead and let Olivia tell us what Joe said on his own podcast. I guess a week or two, whenever after this happened, and then I have a special question that I want to ask you, ladies. So get your thinking caps on. All right.
Okay.
Now, check this out.
Joe made this statement on his podcast.
Enough of this Karen looking like a baddie. Shit. HR, Joe, HR. I need to be like Ross. If Ross, was you ever hire any women? Nah, I'm gonna fuck the bitches. That's the funniest part ever. Isn't it? No, he said it. I'm about to say, that was like almost a direct quote. He said that shit.
If I hire any women, I'm going to want to fuck them bitches, is what he said after my departure from the podcast.
Yeah. And did you notice that the guy said, HR, Joe, HR, HR? Did y'all hear that part?
Yes, I heard
to remind him that he can go around and catch a lawsuit.
And why? How come nobody else, when they were on Mandii and them show, why didn't somebody else speak up and say that then? Just that would have been enough.
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
well, I'm too scared to also.
They might have been, but see, that's the part that has to change, because that's the part that, especially just keeping it under the girls code hashtag. At least, we have to quit using, well, I was afraid, or I didn't know, come on, stop all that. And then when it comes out, now everybody's running for pamper me, protect me, care for me, cover me. I didn't know. What do you mean about strong Black women? That's offensive. You're making excuses because you failed to act. I appreciate Olivia for, coming out, saying something, and as she's articulating everything that happened, she's doing it from you can tell she's nervous, but she's speaking her truth. And at least she's speaking it. And it didn't, it's not 2, 3, 4, 10, 20 years later, but we do need to speed that time frame up. And I know that, you can't, that was one of the things that got this party started in the chat on the Sean Davy Way show, where, there was a couple people in the chat talking about who you to say that you can, it was going back and forth, because some of the ladies feel like, whoa, you can't tell anyone when they should speak up and say what's wrong with them. No, you shouldn't. But we have to remember that, if we're going to put an end to this, if this is going to stop, we have to on purpose work towards squashing this sexual harassment. And means we got to speak up sooner, and we got to support each other when we see it in real time. We got to say something then. We have to do that. Any final?
All you need is one bold one. That's it.
That's it. And a couple hefty lawsuits, judgments where the people, these men will say, well, I probably don't want to risk, $100 million. So I probably just better, say it somewhere else or say it to Mandii and Bridget, since they're cheering and like I said, flip flopping and hip hopping and all this and that, just because they saw Joe hugging Olivia. They were so excited by it. I'm like, damn, what's really good?
Yeah, I peeped that. I was like, okay, that's not normal.
Yeah, that's what made it to me seem like a setup. Like, well, not a setup, but like y'all knew this is Joe's behavior, and you couldn't wait to watch it. And maybe they put that in their chat. Is she gonna be on here? I'm gonna say some bold stuff to her and see how she reacts live on air.
Yeah,
that's just raggedy.
And then grinding on her while you're hugging her.
And
Who does that?
He looked like his hip was broke. So if I was, you know what I'm saying? If I did think he was hot and I did want some of that, you know what I mean? The way you grind in, no, because you like you got a clink in your hip, so you ain't even really getting it in. What?
And I know she didn't feel anything because he definitely gives Lil D energy.
Come on now.
Oh, absolutely.
Come on
absolutely.
now.
Listen.
Out of control. But that's real talk. So, ladies, I did say I wanted y'all to put y'all thinking cap on. So, Naya, you may not know, but I know Antoinette and Island, y'all know. Y'all know I'm hot on this Porsche situation. Okay. I know that. And Naya, if you ain't hip to the square, I want you to, when you can, pull up to the YouTube channel. I got this little episode I did real quick over Porsche and Simon Says. But here's the thing, y'all. I'm so offended by that whole situation. And I kind of feel like Mandii and Bridget kind of did a Porsche move, like the way Porsche, claimed to be, she wasn't friends with the wife and all this and that. But here's my thing. I feel like Bravo TV could find someone or someone else to be on that show that puts Black women in a positive light and still has a little taste of drama, because we know it's about ratings, this, that, and 2/3. I feel like with what Olivia has going on right now, they ought to rip Porsche and Simon Says the hell up off of there. And Olivia could go in there. One, she's a progressive young Black woman. She's building her brand. She was a DJ for SWV on the Verses, and she's dealing with the JoeBudden situation. But at least she is moving in what appears to be a right direction, as opposed to Porsche. What do y'all think about it? Sound off. Let me hear what y'all think.
She doesn't have enough drama for them. Mm-hmm. She's too normal. She is too normal, and they are not going to have it. I get where you're trying to go with this, and at one time, it was like that on Real Housewives, because I watched from the first season all the way up until like maybe the season before. I think the season before Nene came back is when I fell off. Because I was like, okay, now this is just a minstrel show. I'm not watching this no more. I'm out.
Right. Exactly.
And I remember when, I forget the lady's name, but she was married to Deshaun Snow. She was married to the retired basketball player, and her life was pretty normal. And out of all of the housewives, she was the one that had the most money. And she said, they told her, you're too normal for the show. And they let her go.
Yeah.
And it's like whatever they can to make Black women look in a certain light.
Yeah.
But we as Black women have to start saying, no, I'm not falling for this BS.
Right.
You know,
Right.
yes, you want a little drama on the show,
Yeah.
but not to the point where it's almost like, what the hell am I watching? That I had to pull away.
Yeah.
I had to pull away.
And I feel like
this is messy.
Yeah. I mean, and I get that concept of, you know, we got to have drama and this and that. I feel like, and okay, so you said she's too normal. She is, but who she's in this drama situation with isn't JoeBudden.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I would rather see this real, because we know this is real. But we know that Jay and Simon Says they can't make up, you know, Monday it's this and Tuesday it's that. They can't make up their mind, you know, and you say storyline, well, no, it's real love. And it's just all ridiculous. I'm about to do another episode on that one because I'm angry at the fact that these executives feel like this is okay. And
you do know she's getting a spinoff, a 3-episode spinoff.
Right. Rewarding that negative
bad behavior. Exactly.
And if you notice, they say that the Housewives show is for 14 years old and up. And so just envision a single mom, whether rich or poor, with kids around that age group. This mom could be sitting at the crib frying some chicken or whatever, or eating, and man on his way over, whatever the deal is. You got the TV on, you watch it like, you know, if you like me, when I used to watch it, every time it came on, I was sitting there right there playing my evening around it because it was a good show. And these kids are getting all that. So they get to see Portia throwing that ass in a circle saying, you know what I mean? All that bad behavior is just a reinforcement. And this is what kids are getting. This is what weak-minded women are seeing, like, well, maybe I should do this, and then maybe I can keep a man that way.
They're not even bringing the kids on the shows anymore. You don't see them in a family dynamic anymore. That is the part that was the most important part. It was housewives, meaning that you're centering, yes, around these women, but you're observing them handle day-to-day function, you know, whether they clean, cook, have their own little businesses on the side, but you see them in their families. We used to see Greg with Nene and the kids all the time. We even saw Kim with her 2 daughters all the time. You know, the only one we didn't get to really see was I forget the Asian lady, Lisa, because of the whole
Keith Sweat didn't want his children on there.
Right. I think they had the little baby on there because of the fact that was her and her husband's at the time. But even still, we all saw the family dynamic.
Right.
Now, I mean, what's her name? Candy's husband, he got the kids all the time. And Candy's constantly gone.
Yeah.
So it's like she's the one handling the business.
Right. But you know what? That's a more positive image to portray than what they're allowing the other people to do. And you know, so I don't want to, I'm not, you know, I just, like I said, I just feel like there's other Black women out here to where it would benefit me. I know I would come back and watch it again if they would put a real person with real situations. And you know,
they should have got rid of that whole cast a long time ago. And yes, I mean the whole cast, Candy included.
But they wanted to keep the whole cast because they want to. It's all an exploitation of us. To put us in a negative light, and representation means a lot. You know, not only us in America is looking at this show, people are looking at this show from around the world. So if someone that doesn't live in America, the only time they see Black women is when they throwing drinks, being messy. You don't see a family dynamic. When you also see bad things that happen to us, other people may think, well, maybe they deserve it because look how I see them look. You know, and I used to do a lot of traveling when I was young, and I didn't know how much, you know, media and videos played a role on the rest of the world. You know, I go somewhere like when I went to UK, and if they heard me speak and they knew I was from America, the first thing they started doing is pop locking, and I'm like, why would they do that to me? Oh, because that's all they see on TV. Is
Let me
they just
tell
think
you,
we all just around pop locking.
Thank you.
Even African men
Yes.
feel a certain way about Black women that are not from Africa.
Yep.
I have watched a man say it's some African artist, and he's dating a girl, a Black girl, but she lives in the UK, and he said to her, "We ain't seen her around him in 3 months." I've been said he needs to let her go and get him a good woman, an African woman, and I'm just like, wow. Because you didn't see her around for 3 months, you immediately just trash Black women from any other country except Africa. You know, stick with your own kind. And I was just like, I thought, you know, being Black was like a unity thing. You know, what is this about?
Well, how do they know about American Black women? From what they see on TV. So if there's no positive representations of us on TV and they see us, that's the reason why they want the drama. They don't want anyone boring. They don't want to see a Black family thriving and being happy and sticking together. That's not the narrative they want to portray, because they also know that they are Black people getting murdered out here in these streets. So how can I justify all the bad things that are happening to these Black people? Let me put them on TV and have them acting a fool. So then when it's time for the media or the outside people to cry out and like, we don't like what's going on with them, they think about what they see on TV and they feel like we deserve it. It's just the fact. They've always used media that way. If you look at the history of media and how we've been portrayed on media, that there's not a lot of positive representations. There never have been. There have been a few, but how long do they live? Like the Cosby Show isn't aired anymore because they demonized him, and they used that as an excuse to pull his show off the TV, in my opinion.
Yeah.
You know, there are other shows that show us in a good light, but they don't show them on a regular basis. They want to promote toxicity. They want to promote the angry Black woman that can't even function or take care of her kids because she's too busy fighting and clowning out in the street. They don't want to see anyone that is minding their business, paying their taxes, taking care of their kids, taking care of their man, and is in a healthy, happy relationship. That's boring. But we have to stop watching it too.
Right.
That's why I stopped watching. Another thing too is that it's why are Black women always oversexed on TV? That's another thing I noticed. You see with the numerous men, or you know, just all of this triangle stuff going on. It always looks, there's always a sex scandal with them housewives. Always. So it's like
it's promoted.
Right. It's like we can't even be respected.
Thank you.
Because that's put out there that we think about is sex.
And that's what I was going to mention too, because it really bothered me when Olivia first came out and her video came out first. It was so many comments of why she's coming out now and why is she speaking now? Oh, she just clout chasing and she just want to do that because of Rory and Mal. And it's like, why can't we believe she's telling the truth? And it wasn't until Mandii and Bridget came out with their show, then they're like, oh, now I believe her. Why did it take all that? And why will we immediately think that she's lying or immediately think she's clout chasing? Because the TV and the media has programmed us that we are toxic and we can't be in a position of being a victim.
Right.
That's what it's all about, of us demonizing ourselves and the outside world demonizing us. So when we go through things, we're not believed and we're not protected.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Men and women.
And I'm going to be honest, when she first came out, I wasn't believing her. I'm like, okay, but see, I wasn't really aware of it because I never watched JoeBudden's podcast or anything of that nature. I seen him on whatever show that was, Love and Hip Hop. And you know, so I wasn't a big interest with him. But my thing, I didn't believe her off the top because I felt like, okay, what did this happen a couple years ago? And now that this Rory and Maul thing's going on, all of a sudden you coming up out the woodwork. And it really wasn't until I had an opportunity to really look into this and find out, well, damn, okay, well, according to her, it happened in January, even though to me that's a little too long, but I would, you know, with just 5 months into the game of it, you know, after it happening, you know, that's a lot sooner than those Cosby ladies came up with. And, you know, but we've got to, I feel like just if we can work ourselves up or come up with the strategy where we are reporting that stuff immediately, if not sooner, so we can shut this crap down. Because, you know, we shouldn't have to walk into a job. Like she said, don't think about it. Don't think about, you know, we shouldn't have to do all that. I'm here. I'm able. I'm the one that can get the job done. You know, yes, I'm not only am I a strong Black woman, but I'm a sexy Black woman. I'm every woman. How about that? And I'm just here to do what I got to do and get the hell on and do, you know, and then do what I want to do, you know, just like everybody else. So you made a very solid point, Antoinette. You're right, because a lot of people didn't believe her, I was one of them. So,
and I had to condition my mind for that. Like I had to condition my mind. I'm like, wait a minute. Every time somebody come out and say they're the victim, why is everybody immediately attacking them? Yeah. What I'm going to start doing is believing anybody Black. I don't care. I believe anybody Black until I prove otherwise. I'm not about to demonize nobody Black. Everybody Black is telling the truth until I figure out otherwise.
Right.
And they dragged me when Armand had his live. Yeah, and when Armand had his live and he showed her show, people were trying to attack me in those comments. And I'm like, well, I don't care what you're talking about. I believe Joe ain't nothing. And that's really because I watched Joe. You know, I seen Joe when he was on Love and Hip Hop and him confronting and being toxic with his friend Consequence and him having all these abuse allegations with Tahiri and Kaylin. And then Kaylin and him was on couples therapy and how he was treating her. So I know Joe is not nothing.
Well, did you hear of the case with his son's mother?
Yeah, Sin.
Yeah,
they
were
talking too.
With that?
Yep.
Yeah, I was just about to say that too.
That was in September last year, right?
Too.
Yes, he's crazy.
Yeah.
So every relationship you in, you fighting and clowning and acting a fool, even though you have a history of having all these relapses and going and having all this drug abuse. So they stick by you through all that, and the next thing you want to do is when someone's probably try to check your bad behavior, then the first thing you want to do is put your hands on somebody.
Yeah.
Well,
Joe was a trigger for me. I'm sorry, y'all.
I know. Exactly. We did it. We did it.
No. That's it. You know, thank you for that. Well, ladies, that's it. That's the podcast. And I appreciate all three of y'all showing up and having this good conversation. Who can I turn to? Who can I run to? So, ladies, thanks for pulling up. I appreciate it. This has been the Only Male Cruise Show. That's it. That's the podcast. Be sure to follow me on all social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, Anchor FM, Station Head. Thanks, ladies, for pulling up. Appreciate y'all. And we will see ya when we see ya.